currently de-ice not check-in today, and then we're up to avionics check-in set is required. Let's go ahead and do a quick radio check with Guardian Ops. That's good enough.
What's your call sign now?
5-3.
Guardian Ops, it's Guardian 5-3, com check on uniform.
Guardian.
Guardian Ops, it's Guardian 5-3, com check.
Guardian 5-3, Guardian Ops, that's 5-3.
Guardian Ops, Guardian 5-3, com check on 5.
Aircraft formerly known as 5-3 gets line clear.
We have you saying thanks. Alright, so we did
Hey, we're getting ready to crank here. You guys can come on in. Sorry for the delay, but thank you. Appreciate it. Alright, we're going to go ahead and start engines. We're going to make some noise too, so it doesn't matter how much noise they make.
Alright.
Alright, starting engines. Engine fuel system selector.
We have air, fuel, and spark.
I welcome you to the story of my friend, Bobby.
They gave me all kind of reward because I never lost a patient. I got every last one of them out of there. Hey, and I never forget how them guys looked at me.
First of all, I say that fighting in 3 wars, I mean, how does that has affected you over the years, being a veteran of 3 wars? Right in a way, that's an accomplishment.
Yes, the fact remained is that I had no choice. I just came up in that era of time where I just fell right in the place, and I dealt with it, and thank God I survived.
And originally, you went into the Navy. What was your MOS with the Navy?
A cook. Well, at that time, an African American in the Navy could only be a cook or a steward. I think it's most obvious as to what I was.
Yeah. Now, you had a combat readiness position what was that? And how did you end up manning a deck on any aircraft?
I was on a submarine chaser, 175 feet long and 25 feet wide. I had a 3-inch 50 gun on the forecastle. So when the war broke out in September of 1950, the Navy sent me a notice and said the next notice you receive, you had 24 hours of readiness. So I said, my experience in the Navy, I can't drink all that water. Let me get on the ground. So I joined the Army.
Right.
And because I was a veteran of World War II,
Right.
I only had to take 6 weeks of refreshment training.
You were retrained, and in Vietnam you were a combat medic?
Yes, because I got frostbites and everything from the Korean War. I ran a medical facility.
Right.
I had 12 doctors and 85 technicians. They say, well, the World War II's over, Korea's over for you. There's a lot of veterans out there carrying the wound, and they will carry it to their grave. That's the price that they pay for the freedom that you enjoy.
My name is Colonel Eric Simonson. I'm the 305th Operations Group Commander at Joint Base McGuire-Dix Lakehurst. I'm in charge of approximately 800 airmen and some sailors as part of the Joint Base. We fly 2 different types of aircraft in the 305th, KC-10 refueling and dual-role cargo aircraft. as well as C-17 cargo aircraft.
When the earthquake happened, it was pretty crazy. There was a lot mass confusion, lots of screaming, lots of noise.
I think I got a call around 9:30 at night from the Tanker Airlift Control Center at Scott Air Force Base that they were going to use our C-17 to go pick up the Fairfax County search and rescue team and then transport them over to Nepal. And so it was pretty short notice. I mean, you're talking in less than 10 hours we were going to launch the airplane and make all this happen.
So from the first, we took it from the first crew, and which was here at McGuire, and then we continued on to location Southwest Asia. Once we landed there, we got off the plane, and another crew took it from there. And it took, they were gone for, the plane was gone for a couple days, and then the plane came back. We took it from there, and then came back to Joint Base with that.
The current war in Afghanistan, which started circa 2001 as Operation Enduring Freedom for the United States, still rages on today in an attempt to dismantle Al-Qaeda and the Taliban insurgency. In 2009, Colonel Olaf Holm began his one-year tour in Kabul, Afghanistan, training Afghan soldiers to fly Mi-17 helicopters. His courage and dedication reflects tremendous credit on himself and the United States Air Force.
My name is Colonel Olaf Holm. I'm the Commandant of the Air Advisor Academy. Today we're going to talk about my year in Afghanistan. I looked over and I saw a burning vehicle on the southern edge of Kabul, and my flight engineer in Afghan said, "Oh, very bad, very bad." And then I saw Americans on the ground, and then I saw multiple vehicles, and I saw an American vehicle, a Suburban, split in half. And I saw American wounded on the ground. I landed my helicopter, and the next picture shows a burning smoke and a bus and a wall that's been blown apart. What we had come across was a suicide attacker had taken the opportunity to blow up a U.S. convoy. I unbuckled from the helicopter and I got out and I ran through that wall, and you can see the burning bus. It was my Normandy moment, if you will. Bodies everywhere, body parts, burning bodies. And I'd seen more Americans, so I ran back in there and I found a colonel and a sergeant major, and they were both kind of covered in blood. And then I saw another American on the ground, and I ran to him and I went down to try to help him, and they said he was dead. Well, I said, "Gentlemen, you're coming with me." And I grabbed him and I threw him back in the helicopter and strapped in and took off. And by the time I got to Kabul, declared an emergency, all my fuel lights were flashing. But when I did park and it was all over, I broke down.
Hi, I'm Congressman Tom MacArthur, and I represent New Jersey's 3rd Congressional District, which is home to 65,000 veterans. Today's story is about one of those veterans, Ernest Kaufman. I hope his story today will inspire you to look at the men and women that serve our nation and to see all that they've done to restore freedom and preserve our way of life in this world. Thank you.
The 10th of November, 38. I get a frantic phone call from my sister, Ernest, go home immediately. All the synagogues are burning, and get home to the parents. And the policeman says, "Look, I've got orders to arrest every Jewish male between the ages of 16 and 65, quote unquote, for their own protection from the enraged German populace." Arresting probably 30 or 40,000 Jewish males between the ages of 16 and 65 and shipping them off to the various concentration camps. Conditions, of course, were horrible. This was the middle of November by then. A couple of civilians came across our lines and they said, "You know, we come from the town of Einbeck. We got a general who wants to put up a fight in the worst way. Is there anything the Americans can do to help us? And I was called to the general's office. Stand in front of the general there. I tell him I have orders to tell you, or to ask for the immediate surrender of the town of Einbeck. You will be held responsible for any loss of life and property in the town if you decide to defend the city. The general tells me to wait outside. 15 minutes later, the general calls me into his office. Well, I've decided to accompany you to your commanding officer and to surrender the city. 20 years later, I get a telegram from the town of Einbeck, this man still being the mayor of the town, thanking me once more for having saved the city and its population from disaster.
John and Judy Young lost their son Jeffrey in the suicide bombing of the Marine Barracks on October 23, 1983 in Beirut, Lebanon. Over 200 other military personnel lost their lives that day. In this Armed Forces Heritage Museum documentary, Judy Young talks about the tragedy of losing their son, of becoming a Gold Star mother.
Jeffrey graduated from high school in 1980, and he immediately went into the Marines. Now, that is not something we did not know about. I mean, he had already joined before he graduated, basically, and he went to his basic training in September to December of 1980. They were part of the multinational force that had been sent over by President Reagan. He volunteered to go. All the boys that went to Lebanon volunteered to go. But on October the 23rd, a truck bearing actually the largest non-nuclear bomb that has ever been set off came through the barracks and went into the building, which was an atrium-type building.
The four-story concrete building collapsed in a pile of rubble. More than 200 of the sleeping men were killed in that one hideous, insane attack.
So that night, we got a knock on the door. It was the casualty officer. When I came into headquarters, we were still doing our membership on 3x5 cards. That's been my mission since 1983. I got a call saying that there was some Philadelphia families that were meeting, and would we like to come over and meet some of them.
How did you progress to become the national president?
Well, that was actually fairly easy. So the second meeting, I was named the president, and I wound up being on the National Executive Board at my first convention.
Was in the Korean and Vietnam War. Hearing he was a veteran totally changed the way I looked at him. Now I see you as a brave man who protected the United States of America.
We all have someone who's touched our hearts. For some people, it's someone known to all the world, and for others, it's someone who may not be known to many people at all. My hero is my dad. He's been serving in the U.S. Air Force for 20 years, and the road's been rough, but all worth the while.
Thinking about what our veterans do is amazing. Thinking of what they have risked, sacrificed, and done for us makes me proud. It's even greater to think about veterans that you know. It could be your neighbor, your grandfather, or even your own dad. In my case, it's my dad.
Brave, remarkable, courageous. That's what a hero is. Many of your heroes are probably athletes, actors, scientists, inventors, but not mine. In your eyes, my hero might just be an average person. But to me, he is way more than that. He is strong, and a selfless person who saved many lives, made sacrifices for our country, and spent many nights listening to bombs go off, wondering if he would ever live to see his family again. This person is my cousin, Joey, my hero.
Veterans are people that served or are serving now for our country. They help us in many ways and risk their lives for us. Do you know a veteran? I sure do. His name is Jim Fishburne, and he is my grandpa.
There is one veteran who really stands out in my mind. That's my grandfather, who is no longer alive. Unlike others, I don't really know when or why he joined the Army so many years ago. I didn't get to hear his stories or learn about his branch of service that much. He didn't get any special medals or ribbons, but he did risk his life for our country. I only knew my Pop-Pop for 5 years, but he quickly became my favorite veteran.
Thank you for being there for me and just being a loving grandfather and being open to share your stories and teach me to be more selfless.
My dad, in my eyes, is a great person. I am honored.
My grandfather is a veteran.
There is one veteran who really stands out in my mind. That's my grandfather, who is no.
My grandpa served in the Air Force.
I look up to Joey and all veterans because of his honor.
My hero is my dad.
I'm here as Lieutenant Governor of New Jersey, also as a representative of the 430,000 veterans we have in New Jersey, to introduce an incredible story about a hero, Howard Brooks. He's going to tell you his story about how he was captured by the Japanese and spent 3.5 years in an internment camp, building the now famous bridge over the River Kwai. If we ever forget the story of Howard Brooks and the people like him, we will forget how it is we can all sit here a free and open society.
I joined the Navy September the 3rd, the day Hitler marched in to Poland. I was advised I was to be transferred to the USS Houston and the Asiatic Fleet. Well, a little after dark, we got underway. We were going to make an effort to go through the Sunda Straits. And the next thing we know, we were in the middle of a landing force. We lasted for almost an hour. I hung on to this life raft. And the next day, the Japanese came along in small boats and picked up guys. They took us right to the Japanese truck. So they took us into Moulmein. That was the beginning of the railroad. I know for the first several weeks, all we did was dig, remove that, pile it up. The railroad was laid out, and there were stakes in the ground and lines drawn. We worked every day. There was no days off. You had your little mat, you lay on that. And if you were lucky, you had a blanket. It was always the same thing. Plain rice, and I made throw some vegetables in it. But that was 3 times a day. It turned out to be that's all we had for the rest of the 3.5 years. He said, the Japanese emperor has seen fit to end the war. He said, war is no more. You will be going home.
We are interviewing 2 conscientious objectors from the Second World War, Warren Sawyer and Neil Hartman. Both Warren and Neil were born in 1920. And how'd you become a Quaker?
In 1939, my sister went to a Quaker work camp in Philadelphia, but she persuaded me in 1940 to sign up for a Quaker work camp.
So you applied for to be a conscientious objector.
So I had to sign up as CO. They took blood first and found out my levels. Then they inoculated me with dirty blood. Dirty blood was blood that had come from a person who had hepatitis.
These are tests that could have taken your life.
Why did you do this?
Well, of course, we got called all kinds of things, yellow bellies, and I wanted to show that I was willing to take a risk of my life. So I was really thankful that I had this opportunity to show that maybe I wasn't a yellow belly after all.
I joined the Quakers in 1937. As far as being a CO, that was the major message to me from Quakerism. In September of 1942, I went to Philadelphia State Hospital.
Tell us about the hospital, where it was and what it looked like.
It was just degradation throughout, and not much hope for any of the patients.
And you look back and you see how many people were conscientious objectors, and what were their backgrounds?
Just 4, lacking for 12,000 people in CPS.
What is CPS?
Civilian Public Service. That was the title that we were given. In addition to that, there were 3,000 men who went to prison. They would not have anything to do with the military system.
And for you to stand for your convictions and do what you did took a lot of fortitude. You did not run away from the country. You did not turn your back on the nation. You stood for your religious convictions, and you took a lot of abuse. You risked your life to prove your patriotism.
This documentary is about the remarkable men of the 5307 Composite Unit who fought in extreme conditions in the Pacific Theater.
My name is Gilbert H. Howland. At the time of the Marauders, I was a buck sergeant.
My name is Marcus Morelos. I was 1st Battalion White Combat Team.
I'm Robert E. Patson AC. I was in the communication platoon. I'm Quentin Waite from Michigan.
On February 24th, 1944, the 5307th began a history-making march through the enemy-held Himalayan foothills into the jungles of Burma.
It astonished me that we went 800 miles in 3 months through all that cotton-picking country.
Operating behind enemy lines, the marauders were able to outflank Japanese forces and cut off major supply roads.
There was 2 engagements that were really bad. The first one was after Wallaboom. They kept coming across, charging. Eventually, some of them got into the trenches and wrestled with the troops there. Fought them all day long. We did stop them from moving up the road to reinforce their forces.
First time I saw combat was at the Shadows. We had just marched like 35 hours continuously to get to our position in a sort of middle of the night. So when the Japanese were getting ready for breakfast and such, you could hear the mess kits going. That's when the group that was on the other side of the river opened up.
The general said there will be no more bear running down this trail. We're going to stop them right here at Nupunga. Eventually what happened, we occupied that perimeter to hold there. The Japs surrounded us and we were trapped. But we had a Japanese American with us, and he understood the language. And at night he would creep over into their positions and find out what they were going to do the next day. So that helped us a lot because when they hit, we opened fire on them. We were ready for them.
On May 17, 1944, they succeeded in capturing North Burma's only all-weather Michinaw airstrip. They accomplished this by defeating the much larger elite 18th Japanese Imperial Guards Division in 5 major battles and over 30 minor engagements. At the end of their successful mission, only 130 officers and men of the original 2,750 were fit for duty.